वैश्वानरः प्रविशति अतिथिर्ब्राह्मणो गृहान् तस्यैतां शान्तिं कुर्वन्ति हरवैवस्वतोदकम् आशा प्रतीक्षे संगतं सुनृताञ्च इष्टापूर्ते पुत्रपशुगुंश्च सर्वान् let's start from the beginning. आशा प्रतीक्षे संगतं सुनृताञ्च इष्टापूर्ते पुत्रपशुगुंश्च सर्वान् एतद्वृङ्क्ते पुरुषस्याल्पमेधसः यस्यानश्नन् वसति ब्राह्मणो गृहे So, this one, Yami, what does Yami do? Doesn't welcome him back with arati. She says, bring the arati for someone really who needs to be welcomed, because she gives him a little moral science lesson. And what is this moral science lesson? What happens when the guest has been ignored? She didn't ignore him. She invited him many times. All this is not coming in the Upanishad, because Upanishad is a lady of few words. You have to extrapolate and put all these things which are not there. So the Upanishad will not tell all that. The Upanishad will just give the bare bones of the skeletal structure of the story, so that you can infer. It's not that she just kept on looking out of the window and seeing him standing there or sitting there, whatever he was doing. She must have invited him many times, and despite the entreaties, he just stood steadfast there, waiting for the one to whom he thought he had been entrusted to serve. So if I am serving somebody, see, this is the whole seva bhava. That is the whole thing. That it very beautiful. This we didn't touch upon last time. It's just the thing of seva is seva means service. Bhava is that attitude. Whether you do something or not, it's the attitude with which it is offered. That is very reverential, and we see that with Nachiketa. He's not even starting to do seva. He has never seen Yama before, doesn't know what he looks like, doesn't know anything, but still that reverential attitude, that is what really helps with the assimilation of the knowledge. I have seen this time and again, and usually it needs to be cultivated, that reverential attitude, because something else comes naturally. So therefore you have to overpower this, because what else comes naturally is this feeling of doership. I'm the one doing, I'm Indra, Chandra and Devendra, various celestials, I'm this and that, I'm the ruler of heaven, I'm indispensable. This comes in, this starts to creep in. This is all the ahankara telling things in one's spare time, The ahankara starts to do a number, this I notion, frequently called the ego, starts to do a number. And what does it start to do? Oh, because of me, you are alive, One person can say to the other, especially if they are related. If I wasn't doing this for you, this is usually what happens in marriages and other close family relationships, other any kind of friends, And if I wasn't doing this for you, where would you be? You know? Because of me, you are alive. Because of me, you are thriving. You know? Because of me, you are famous. This is all the kinds of the ego plays, ahankara plays some very subtle notes, and then it's so subtle and it's so crafty that these notes of cacophony it manages to pass off as a new melodious raga. Yes, that is its trick. That is its trick. So here, that what happens as a result of that is that it creeps. First, it's the feeling of wanting approval, and then that approval is good, fine. You seek approval, fine, and then that approval starts to the ahankara gives its own approval in a certain way. See, because of you, they are famous. Every assistant to every prime minister or president internationally can feel that. He is getting all the credit, but look who's doing all the work. Me. I am doing all the work. And this fellow is just flaunting himself, staying in 7-star hotels, traveling the world over, and giving few speeches. Who writes the speeches? Me. You see? This is the thing. So one starts to feel indispensable. And when one starts to feel indispensable, that is the zenith, after which one comes tumbling down, because that is a recipe for disaster. When you start feeling indispensable, like without me nothing can happen. That's not true. That's not true at all. And in fact, I had this experience one time where this woman came to me who had stage 4, was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. Didn't know she had cancer. She was fine, very robust, gardening, cleaning. She was a grandmother. It was not her time to go, or so she thought, but it's his time, Yama's time, not our time. His time is what matters. And she came to me, and the way it was diagnosed was very funny, because she had a small bump on the head, and after she hit herself somewhere, she just thought it will go away, but it didn't, and they got it checked out. It had metastasized to the brain. Actually, it was a tumor coming out. Yeah, that was how it was, bad it was. And they told her maximum 3 or 4 weeks. You will not survive past that. We have seen all the cases. We can do chemotherapy, but it will be palliative, so that your quality of life is there and you won't be in so much pain. But it is not going to help anything. There were more than 21 tumors all over the body. Every organ was compromised and there was no hope. But she was still eating, drinking, no symptoms. I said, "You're very lucky, And I said, and she said, "I have called you." She heard that I was some kind of a spiritual person, and she called because, I thought she wanted me to read the Gita or teach her something. But I was mistaken. She said, "You make this go away. If you're really and truly a spiritual leader, you have to make this go away." I said, "I'm not a spiritual leader." I said, "I can't do this, because there is a justice about this. There is a law." I said, "Even if Ishvara comes here, Ishvara cannot transgress his own law. This is a law. That's what we mean by order. There is an order to this. And it's your own karmic order." I said, "This cannot be transcended. But you can transcend this." I said, "This cannot be transcended, but you can transcend this." But she was not. I said, "What's the problem with death? I know it's not the best thing in the whole world, but she says, "I cannot afford to die because I am indispensable to my 5-year-old granddaughter." She had a whole, nicely woven, what's its name? Series of reasons why she could not die. The daughter was married to somebody abusive, not a very nice man apparently. So she was more or less a single mom. He used to come, snatch her money, drink, beat her up, And the kid up also sometimes, and then go away for length of time, come back again very remorseful. It was that domestic violence cycle. And so nothing was happening. And so the daughter had a full-time job naturally, because they're all surviving on her money. And so she would go away to work, and this one is taking care of the granddaughter and making sure that the granddaughter is not having any scarring from having this kind of an abusive father and this difficult home situation. All well and good, but the thing is, the granddaughter was very lucky to have her for the first 5 years, But if she's not going to be there, Bhagavan will take care. What if he doesn't take care? That is also taking care. Because taking care happens in many ways. Taking care happens by giving, and taking care, more importantly, happens by taking away, like the credit cards. Yeah. Yeah, that was a protection. So we are only used to seeing taking care happening through sort of being presented with something. But the best present is when something goes away. Yeah, because one less thing to be connected to in a certain sense. And so the seva bhava, coming back to the point I was making, because last time we didn't see this part, and one may think Nachiketa to be foolish standing there or sitting, in the, where was he sitting? In the Italian garden with fountains and marble seats, stone seats. So, one may visualize Nachiketa as something, sitting there day after day, not eating, not drinking, sitting in the compound of Yama's house, as a foolish activity, especially if one is from the West. What's wrong with him? He's being invited inside by the wife, should have gone, would have had a nice bed to sleep, would have had nice things to eat. Yeah, okay, she would have welcomed him, she would have done all the rituals. She was ready to do, but the fellow would not come in. What's wrong with him? One may think that because this is such a rare quality, we don't see this, And this is really the thing to cultivate, is that attitude of reverence. Because that attitude of reverence is not directed, or is not cultivated rather for the sake of the person unto whom or towards whom the reverence is directed. It's not cultivated for that person, So if it is towards Bhagavan, towards Guru, the seva bhava, that attitude of seva, being ever ready, being vigilant, being present, really. That's what he did. He was present for 3 days. That is not for the sake of the Lord Yama. Or if we are looking at an example of seva bhava, it's not for the sake of the teacher. It's for whose sake? One's own sake. And why is it for one's own sake? This is not just lip service. Because if I don't have this bhava, another, abhava will take over. Bhava means this attitude. Abhava means lack. So the presence of this attitude I want to invite in my life, and keep checking in with myself about it is there, whether it is there, and to what extent it is there, and where it is missing. And to immediately correct that, because if I don't do that, then what happens is that my life becomes difficult, because there is a certain tatsara. Tatsara means a certain neglect in terms of my inner development and growth. And what happens as a result is that this svabhava, the natural primal urges of the ego to flaunt itself, the ahankara flaunts itself as totally indispensable, that creeps up. Especially even when you're looking, it creeps up. What to say when you're not looking? It creeps up. And one starts to feel on top of the world, and that is a dangerous place to be, because if you're on the top of the world, it's easy to fall down, and you have a long way to fall down. Yeah, that's what it is. And so that's a very temporary situation where one feels on top of the world. One feels indispensable. And that's a precursor to feeling dejected, rejected, repressed, pressed, oppressed, everything. And so therefore what happens is that I have to clean out all these egotistical ahankara notions and be in the place of seva bhava, because the seva bhava, the readiness to serve as a qualification to gain the knowledge, that readiness to be in service as a qualification, as a pre-qualification for gaining the knowledge is of utmost importance, and it is exemplified here by Nachiketa's standing or sitting there for living in his compound for 3 days, until waiting patiently for Yama to come. So you see a lot of qualities. You see Shama Dama, which is a resolved mind and non-reactive mind, respectively. You see Titiksha, patience. You see Uparati, letting go of food and water. Uparati doesn't mean letting go of food and water. Uparati means letting go. But here you see it exemplified in letting go of food and water, not being concerned about anything. And then you see Shraddha, which is the Seva Bhava. You see reverence, which is there in full measure as it's going to come out, because that Shraddha itself sent him here. The power of that Shraddha, that something will happen to my father's gains from this, it will be affected from this yajna if I don't go, because old cows are being sent. That itself, Shraddhaya avivesha, saha amanyat. We saw that. He was overcome by Shraddha attack, and he was completely inundated with Shraddha. So Shraddha is there. Samadhanam, single-minded focus. Oh my God, all he could think of was Yama coming, Yama coming, Yama coming. Single-minded. And desire for freedom is there. Viveka and Vairagya are there. Viveka, discrimination about what I really want, and Vairagya, dispassion towards all the things that I really should not have in my life. And all those, the Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutvam will be talked about later. But here, this six-pack, all of it he has. We see that. And this, the key that is holding this, the thread that is holding the six-pack together is this Seva Bhava. That is what it is. If this is altered, if this is cultivated, everything falls in place. And it brings in a certain very different attitude in oneself. And this attitude, why is it such an important precursor or a pre-qualification to the knowledge? If one were to ask, there is a subtle connection on many levels. The first thing it does is that, as I told you, it replaces the ahankara feeling of I am indispensable, or I am doing so much, or I am the best, east or west. It displaces that. Second, when it displaces that, it gives a certain space to really focus on what I want. And it makes the connection between being in Seva Bhava and being receptive to the learning, which is one and the same. Seva Bhava means receptive to the learning. The receptivity comes when the ahankara has vacated briefly with bag and baggage, or at least its pressure is not there. It is lightened of the burden to feel indispensable. Yeah. It's not that you're trying to... It went, but then it stopped. I don't know what happened.
May have got full. I downloaded it last night and didn't wait.
Let it be. So, the remaining in Seva Bhava also brings in a certain humility. A humility not vis-a-vis someone who you are serving, or you're being of service to, because that's not what we are talking about. Humility with regard to being reverential about the laws of Ishvara. Meaning, if I'm serving right now, it is because I'm blessed to serve. It's a privilege, and it is given to me. Yeah. So it becomes a very prize possession, this seva bhava, to cultivate, because it is given. Everything I see as being given. So the seva bhava is a bridge to shraddha, is a bridge to knowledge, is a bridge to understanding Ishvara as the truth of oneself. So really this cannot be dispensed with. Until the knowledge completely takes place and the ahankara is told to sit in a corner, with a dunce cap on, this has to be cultivated. It's not that I cultivate it for one day and then leave it behind. No, this is my jewel. This is the only qualification, really. And so we see this in the last mantra. We see Nachiketa's. That's why the Upanishad makes a big deal about him staying outside for 3 days. And then also in the last mantra, moral science lesson in mantras 7 and 8, given by Yami to her husband, and she also is a woman of few words and is not given to hyperboles and is not given to some long-winded introductions and conclusions and whatnot. And also because it was the days where the Atithi was very nicely received, and you got a, full-on demo about how to receive Atithi in the olden times last weekend. And so you saw it in practical ways. And so here she's a woman of few words, and also because she comes from that old stock of revering the guest rather than thinking, oh, so what, who are you? So that's the main reason why she didn't call 911 and report a prowler, because Nachiketa is standing there for 3 days. That's why she neither called the neighborhood watch nor called 911, because she knew that he had come with a purpose. That's what it is. What neighborhood watch Yama will have? There's no neighbors. Nobody wants to build next door, this side or that side. So, but she didn't call 911 because, she knew that, it is a revered guest who's standing. Anybody who comes is a guest. Yeah. This is how India was colonized for 1,000 years. Anybody who came was a guest. They were treated very nicely. And I went to this Jewish conference, the Hindu-Jewish summit. We had 2 or 3 of those meetings. At the first one, when the chief rabbi came from the Ashkenazi tradition, they came to India. He came to India along with a delegation of 12 other rabbis. And when they got down from the plane, they bowed to the ground, Mother India, because they said this is the only place in the whole universe, in the whole world, where Jews have not been oppressed, where Jews have not been tortured. This is the only land. This is India. Anybody who came was given land, given a place to stay, given good treatment. And that is, of course, they took advantage of it because they were not worthy of it, but that still doesn't dismiss the importance of greeting. The Atithi, as I said, is a metaphor for life. Greeting what is put in our laps with joy. That's why the Atithi exemplifies that. The guest exemplifies that. Because unlike the American guest, they don't take an appointment before coming. In fact, the word Atithi means the one who is coming without a date, fixed date. Tithihi na vidyate yasya atithihi. Comes without a date, comes without an appointment. And so drop in. You see, here there is nothing, in America nothing drops in. Yeah. Everything is calculated, calibrated. How boring. Yeah. Everything you have to expect and make time for. And even if there is some, service person coming to fix the plumbing or the electrician or someone, and if they say, I'll come from 1 to 4, we cannot stand it. Oh, are you coming at 1 or 4? Tell me. Even that window of time, we get restless. This is how calibrated our lives are, where time is everything. Ridiculous. So Atithi denotes the timeless. Atithi denotes that which can suddenly come into the life without preparation. And I have to be prepared for this. I have to be prepared for the unprepared. That is where the spiritual growth is. Both the cause and the result of the spiritual growth is to always be prepared. In fact, the Boy Scouts borrowed it from us. Yeah. Yeah. We borrowed this motto from us. Be prepared is the Vedic motto, is the Upanishadic motto. And the Atithi keeps you in a place of preparation, mentally, physically. I'm prepared to receive whatever comes, because whatever comes, whether it's through the front door or the back door or from the ceiling or from underground, whatever comes from any direction, Purastat, Paschat, Adho, Urdhvam, any direction, up, down, this side, that side, it is all an expression. It's not, we don't even say sent by Bhagavan. It's a manifestation of Bhagavan in our lives. And we take it with equanimity and receive it with joy. That's why all the rituals. So that if I'm if the mouth is like this, we have those drawings, I have to make it like this. Smiley face. Yeah. That's why all the rituals, so that I am in keeping with what comes. I am able to at least, through the rituals, drum up some joy. This is what it is. So no wonder Yami is so disturbed. And what does she say? She says that, Vaishvanaraha Agnihi eva sakshat pravishati. It's not the guest standing on the door. It's a blazing fire in the form of the guest's hunger. Not just hunger, any expectation they come with. Because why is anybody going to show up at your door? They're not crazy. Sometimes they are. But here, this is not what we are talking about. We are talking of the sane guest. We are talking of the guest, not the pest. So, why does anybody show up at the door? They have other things to do. Why will they come and ring your doorbell? Because they want something, correct? They either need some help, or they are hungry and they want some food, or they want, to ask you something, or they want to borrow something, or they just came in to visit and they want your companionship. So there is a reason why they ring the doorbell. It's not that they just come for no reason. And that reason, is what has to, the fulfilling of that reason for which they have come is the moral responsibility of the host. The host has to be prepared to fulfill the reason why they have come. Now this is getting us into very murky waters. Somebody rings the doorbell and says, I want $1 million. Are you going to fulfill, even, let's say, first of all, you don't have. But supposing you had, you only had 2 millions. But then you will give 1 million away? No. This is within reason. We are not talking of just unreasonable demands. Of course, if the Atithi came with a gun, you have no choice, But, we are talking of within reason. Like, oh, can I just come and, stay here for some time? I need a place to stay. I have some problem. Please help. Somebody is in my house and I don't know what to do. Can I use your telephone? This is all these kinds of things. So this upashamanam or shanti karanam, this shanti means it's the expectation is like a blazing trail of expectations. And the host's readiness to serve those expectations is like the hose, not host, hose, which is making the blazing trail of expectations calm down, correct? So the blazing trail of expectations, if they are not met, what will happen? It will, as it were, burn the whole house down. That's the metaphor here. And we saw that. Okay? She's not done yet. She has one more thing to say. So this was the drishtaphalam, meaning if the atithi, what do you, drishtaphalam means the immediate result. What will happen if you don't attend to the atithi? He or she will go away, and go away miffed. That is the drishtaphalam. But then it has adrishta or invisible consequences that will fructify later. And in what form they will fructify is given here. Asha cha pratiksha cha asha pratikshe. So asha means hopes. What kind of hopes? I hope my life will get better. Vague hopes without any, without any general hopes, without any specific things. Yeah. I hope Bhagavan will be with me all the time. I will be blessed. I hope my family members will do well. This is called asha. And then pratiksha is also really the same thing. But since it is used together, they are not synonyms. Slightly different meaning is there. Pratiksha means expectations. Yeah. So one, you have hopes, which are general, expectations. What's an expectation? I just purchased a lottery ticket. Why did I purchase a lottery ticket? Expecting to win. Yeah. Hoping to win is also okay, but this is a specific, in this regard, asha means general hope. Pratiksha means specific expectations. Did you see the difference? I hope I'll make a lot of money. That's a hope. But an expectation is having a hope that is channeled through a particular set of actions with regard to certain goals, having a specific goal. I'm not just hoping that I'll always be taken care of or I'll always have a lot of money. What am I? I'm expecting to win, because if you don't expect to win, why will you buy the lottery? If you absolutely have no expectations to win, you're not going to purchase the lottery. Everybody who purchases the lottery thinks, I think it will be mine. This is the winning ticket. These has, at least the last number will match. You get $5 or so, at least in India, you get about 50 rupees if the last number matches. If 3 numbers match, you get 150 rupees. So, and what will 150 rupees do? Give me money to buy more lottery tickets. That's all, So pratiksha, iksha, ikshanam, to look forward to some specific thing. Asha, general hope. Prati, towards, looking towards, pratiksha. Looking towards a particular goal is called, having a particular goal and working hard towards it is called pratiksha. Asha, pratikshe. It's dualized because there are two. Like phalam phale. Asha cha, pratiksha cha. Asha, not phalam phale, lata late. So, asha pratikshe. And then what? Sangatam. Samyogajam. Born of the sanyoga. Born of the connection. Samyogajam. Sangatam. Same word. Sangatam means that which connects my hopes and expectations that mysterious set of events or circumstances that connect the hopes and expectations, the actions towards gaining the hopes and expectations and the results thereof. What is the connection? This is the Sangati, Sangatam. Because you don't know how the connections are very esoteric and sukshma, subtle. You don't see the connection between the results and the action. Even though the actions are very predictable and leading to predictable results, sometimes they don't. Like you eat how many times a day? Oh, I have lost count. Okay, so you're eating so many times a day. And each time when you eat, what happens? You know, it goes through the correct tube. But you can't take that for granted, because each food, it goes through the correct esophagus, not the other one, is because there is grace abiding over time. That's a subtle connection here. And then sometimes what happens? You start coughing, choking, and if nobody is there to do the Heimlich maneuver, Yama recalls you immediately. One is recalled by Yama. If the fish bone or whatever bone doesn't come out, you grab from behind and make them jump up and down. And you have to press a certain place where you have that cough reflex is activated, and you gag it up, and then this is what happens. And so once in a while what happens? Something gets stuck in the throat. And that's a subtle connection between eating of the food and it going to the correct tube. Because the tubes are very awfully close together. Yeah. Yeah, separated just by one little leaf-like tissue. The tubes are very close, just behind one another. So how come each time I eat, I don't aspirate on the food? That's because there is a subtle connection. Yeah. Yama doesn't want me yet. That's all. That's the connection. It's a karmic connection. There is a subtle connection. So, asha cha pratiksha cha, asha pratikshe, sangatam, not only my hopes and dreams and desires, but also the connections between the hopes and desires and expectations and their fructification or the manifesting in my life thereof. Those connections. And then what? What's the next word? Sunratam. Yeah? Sunratam means the pleasantries. Yeah. Pleasantries meaning what? Hello, how are you doing? These are all called pleasantries. And they are called pleasantries and not unpleasantries for a very important reason. Why? Because they are pleasant to hear. Yeah. And everybody, in addition to wanting to be rich and famous and living in some big mansion and having all these desires, in addition to the American dream kind of desire, there is a subtle desire for pleasantries. I want to practice pleasantries in my life. I want other people to be pleasant towards me. Really speaking, even the most crotchety person, it doesn't want to be crotchety. First they are cranky, and then they are cranky because they feel cranky. You see, it's double crankiness. Nobody wants to be cranky. You ask the most crankiest person, most ordinary person, you approach and say, are you happy being this way? What? Do I look happy? What's wrong with you? That's what they're going to say. Very cranky. And cranky, that crankiness building upon itself ensures that nobody is happy being cranky. Meaning what? I want to be pleasant. I want others to be pleasant to me. And how are these pleasantries expressed? How? Through speech. Yeah. Sunratam, Priya, Vak. This is what is the connection. So, pleasantries means what? It's not that, I'm just wanting to, it's not that I'm just wanting to be there to be pleasant, but it is more in the sense of a general feeling of, what's the word for it? Being in the place of sweet speech. And the sweet talk is important because it's a very powerful weapon to getting things done. You know, if you go to especially if you go to an Indian bureaucratic office where the files are piled as high as the ceiling fan, and whenever you go, it's tea break, you know, or just finished lunch break, or just starting some other break. In other words, a break, B-R-A-K-E, has been put on your work. So you go and you scream at them and you say, how many times have I come? Do you have no sense? How can you treat the public like this? Do you think you're going to get your work done? No. So a sweet talk is a much more powerful weapon. You know, even the robber gets away. If you're a polite robber, if one is a polite robber, may I? Do you mind? Yeah. So, you know, this is what the sweet talking does, because it's a very powerful way. And why is this, you know, it seems like an aberration, because we have hopes, dreams, desires and the connections thereof, and then suddenly Sunratam, this sweet talk. Why does this sweet talk have to come into the picture? Because that is the way in which you get your home Asha and Pratiksha met. Through sweet talk. So the sweet discourses, sweet speech, sweetness and pleasantries of life, without which life is really not worth living. If all the time you are cranky and mad at someone, or somebody is mad at you, it's not worth being in that kind of a situation. But here, the sweet speech, and it is called Sunratam, because, and also its connection, the connection thereof. And what is this connection thereof? Connection thereof means what you can get out of it. And then what? Ishta purte. Ishtam cha purtam cha. Ishta purte. Ishta is the... see, in the Hindu tradition, all the actions are divided into two. Ishta and purta. Ishta means that which is religious actions, like fire rituals, puja, etc. Purtam means charitable actions, supposedly secular, but nothing secular about it. So religious actions and acts of charity and reaching out actions is called purta. All actions come under this. The whole gamut of the Vedic tradition is based on Ishta and Purta. Ishta gives powerful results. When you sit and worship, and how do we put this? You have to spend a lot of money. That's the only way to put it. You have to go buy the firewood. You have to go buy the fruits for the offering. You have to spend a lot. And then you spend a lot, and then any kind of a thing is incomplete without inviting people and making food for them. So you spend a lot of money, and that expenditure is done with the hope of whatever one is praying for, health, wealth, happiness, etc. And then, you know, so this is a very time consuming kind of a worship. And also while you are engaged in this worship, like Vishwajit Yajna that we saw that who was doing? Vajasravas. The father of Nachiketa was doing. We saw that, and so we see that there is a very important connection, because when you are doing this kind of a worship and you're engaged, your mind is engaged, what should I do next, what needs to come, when to put the ghee, when to put the firewood, you're not entertaining other needless thoughts and actions. You're not plotting how to rob a bank, for example. So you're really being in the cosmic flow of righteous actions. And in order to make money, you're not robbing a bank, you're doing a Shri Sukta Homa instead, which is a very different thing. So you're using ethical means to gain what you desire by praying for it rather than, robbing somebody. And so therefore, this becomes, the Ishta doesn't mean the karma here, the results of Ishta is what is indicated, Tad Nimittam. So the results of Ishta. And then also, why does anybody give charity? Oh, because somebody was begging on the street. So many people are begging on the street. No, I just thought I'll help them out. Why do you have to help them out? No, I had $5 in the pocket. Every day you have $5 in the pocket. In fact, that's all you have. So why help them out? Finally, the reason is coughed up. What's the reason? I feel good. I feel good. So you see, that is the Seva Bhava here. Recognizing that this is for me. It's not for the other person. No, but if I don't give, who will give? Don't worry. Yeah. So I feel good. Or I can't stand it if somebody is crying. I can't stand it if somebody is in distress. Because this is human empathy. You want to reach out and help. But it's not for them. Who are you to do seva? It's for yourself. So Purta Karma, when anybody does a big charitable function, goes to the soup kitchen and feeds 50 people, 100 people, or what else, writes a donation to some temple, builds a temple, and gives a building for some charitable work, whatever it is. It's not for the other person. It's for your own growth and your own sake that person is doing that, for their own growth. And so Purta here is not charitable actions per se, but the results thereof. And what are the results of Ishta and Purta? What happens? Adrishta. What is Adrishta? Unpack Adrishta. Punya. Punya, no Papa. Punya. The Punya bank. The meritorious Punya bank. Bank of good merits. That's what the Hindu banks on. Yeah. They may have nothing in this bank, but it's the offshore accounts they are interested in. Yeah. Offshore accounts where Chitragupta bank. Yes. They bank on this merit. This is what it is. So, here in the Vedic culture, the merit, it's very important to keep that bank fully stocked. Yes. In fact, in the Vedic tradition, everybody is looking to do some good deeds. Please give me a chance. Yes. Not like here. Even if you tell them, they just sit, Oh, we need some help here. Meaning they're looking to see who else will come. Yeah. Not in the Hindu religious culture, it's very, please give me a chance, because if you give me a chance, I will have this punya, which I want to have. It's a very different kind of a thing. So people are banking on a very different thing, which they have neither seen, only heard of in the books, in the Vedic books. So this is what you want to keep growing, and the interest you harvest in this life, hopefully. And the capital is reserved for the next life. That's the thing. But how do you know there is capital? Because you are here. Yeah. Because the best use of the punya, the punya can be directed in many ways. It can be, and we are not in charge of it really, we can pray for it. Punya can be directed by karma phaladata Bhagavan in the form of the giver of the fruit of action. Good merit, lots of merit, meritorious action results can be directed towards being born in Saudi Arabia. What's the use? Being a scion of an oil well. Being just, what's the use? And in fact, in all of these Middle Eastern countries, because they are so strict about, and this is very interesting, they live in great luxury. They're very luxurious countries. They have golf courses in the desert, they have everything. They have found a way to recycle the ocean water, so there is no water shortage. Amazing. Reverse osmosis or something they have. And so there is no water shortage. Purified ocean water comes, freely flows through all the taps. Then they have this high standard of living, huge houses. But they don't go out because 50-degree temperature. Where are they going to go? And then they have all these malls which sell all these things, half of which they cannot buy because their religion forbids them to. Very interesting. But this is the result of punya. And then, both the men and the women, what's the use of going to the malls? Because all they have to do afterwards is cover up completely from head to toe on something, they don't even see the clothes, whether you are wearing some big designer, something inside, doesn't matter. When you go out, you're just covered in this big, like a big house coat. That's the kind of a thing. That's the uniform. And of course it makes sense because of the heat and everything, dust storms are there, all these things. The head is also covered for both men and women. Very interesting. So there's all these wonderful things, but you're not, it's only for the tourists. And even if you wear something, it's not shown. Interesting way of directing punya. Plus there is no chance of having access to this knowledge. Forget this knowledge. Even one Krishna photograph will not make it. I'm told they step on it. They first look through your luggage to see if there is any religious paraphernalia. They don't allow any other traditions to come through with their paraphernalia. And they will step on it, burn it right there in front of you. So there is no hope of gaining this knowledge. There is no hope of exposing to this knowledge. And when Swamiji used to go to places like this earlier, he went to Kuwait and there you could only talk inside the Indian embassy, nowhere else, not even in people's homes. Lot of rules. And so therefore, this is one way the punya can be directed, but why? Because the human life is to gain this freedom. And without this freedom, what happens? Nothing happens. So we have to pray for the punya to be directed towards making life conducive, both here and the hereafter, to gaining this knowledge. That is where we have to direct the punya through our prayers. And so this punya bank has to be large. Even if you are a person who is interested in gaining this knowledge, if you are a person who is a mumukshu, the one who is desirous of freedom, desirous of gaining these teachings, the merits are very important. Because we don't know how many demerits there are. What's the word for demerits? Papas. We don't know how many demerits there are that can overpower any time and take you out of the teaching situation. Or make the classes stop for whatever reasons. And so therefore one has to be reverential, prayerful, and you have to have a lot of punya to counter the blockages, pratibandha, that can come in the way of the knowledge. And even if the classes don't stop, the mind stops listening to the classes. What to do? Another big problem. Health has to be maintained, mind has to be maintained properly, everything has to be focused, and it's a very fine balance that we have to keep. So therefore we increase the punya, by leaps and bounds to keep that. And Yami knew this. Yami knew that punya is everything. And she says, Ishtapurte, the results of the punya karma, by all kinds of action. Ishtapurte, and then what? Putra, baby yamas, and baby yamis. So, putra means children. children are an asset. We don't look in the tradition, we don't see children as, what is that word? Liabilities. Here the feeling is, oh my God, my life is gone. No, there they are assets. They are sent by Bhagavan, they are a manifestation of Bhagavan, they are assets. We don't look at them as mouth to feed. We look at them as that which is here, is a, what's that? It's the continuation of the lineage, and I have done my part to continue the lineage. There is something wonderful about that. And so putra, assets in the form of children. And then what? Pashums. Pashun. Pashu means cattle, goats, animals. They are also assets. They give milk, and they take care of you. You can make money off of the milk, so many things. So they are assets. In fact, in the olden days, one's assets were calculated by the number of cows one had. Because cows doesn't mean cows. Cows means you have to have attendants to wash them down, take them to the pasture. You have to have pasture land to graze them. You can't send them to the neighbor's lawn. Yeah, you have to have your own land where they can go graze. And you have to have your own pond where they can go and drink. So like this, symbols of wealth, children, putra and pashu, sarvan, all this. So all this means what? You have to start from hopes, dreams, desires, the connections thereof, all the effects of religious actions and charitable actions, children and animals, sarvan, all of these, etat, sarvan etat, all these, vrinkte, from vrinj, seventh conjugation, vrinakti, vrinj means to lose, vrinkte, devours, eats up. What does it, who eats up, whose all these, whose spiritual wealth is eaten up? Purushasya, for this person. What kind of a person? Don't say alpascha, medhascha, because we have said ashacha, pratikshacha, and we have been saying, what is that? Putrascha, pashumscha, and then we have said sangatamcha, sundratamcha, ishtacha, purtamcha. Don't say alpamcha, medhamcha, no. Alpa, medha, yasya, saha. This is not referring to a person. It's a different kind of a compound called bahuvrihi. Bahavaha vrihayascha, yasya cha. Yasya saha. Bahavaha vrihayaha, yasya saha. The one who has a lot of grains is called bahuvrihi, and it has become a symbol for these kinds of compounds which don't describe the thing, but the person who has that thing. Now here the Purusha is described. The Purusha is described. What does the Purusha have? Medha is alpa. Medha means thinking power, cognitive capacity to make connections between the obvious, between the subtle and the gross, between the obvious and the implied, between the overt and the covert. You should see the results of your action. When you say something, when one says something, immediately before one says it, one should contemplate on what will be the effect if I say this. What will be the effect if I don't say this? And the person who doesn't contemplate and just says it and then laments, oh, this person got hurt, this person got up and left, is called alpamedhas. Alpamedhas means the one who has little connection between cause and consequence, between one's action and results, the one who is not able to make the connection between the obvious and the implied. So for the person who is a dodo, who doesn't know this simple thing, that all these things get lost when the atithi is not tended to, for such a person, all this, that person is excluded from the results of all their actions. And then what? For this person, yasya, for whom? Yasya brahmanaha grihe, yasya grihe, in whose house, brahmanaha atithihi, this atithi in the form of a student of the Veda, anashnan vasati, stays. It's not a problem that he stays. He stays without being attended to and goes hungry. Yeah. In our tradition, you cannot allow anyone to go hungry. So you overfeed them just to make sure. Just to make sure. So if you go to India, please have this. Oh, you say, oh, okay, thank you. And then they will say, have another. Oh, all right, thank you very much. Have the third one. No, I don't think I could possibly eat it. And what will they say? Have it anyway. Until you say, alam, enough, 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 enough. You have to say 5-6 times. Once is not enough. That is the culture, because you have to make sure that they're not feeling shy or not feeling, that, oh, here nobody knows even how to feel shy in America. But in India, even the guest doesn't want to impede on the host. So they may come at lunchtime, but only because they were in the neighborhood. This is a very typical scenario. It happens in many houses. Everybody has had this experience. The guest drops in at lunchtime because they had to do an errand in that neighborhood and they saw that their friend is right there. So let me just go quickly. And then they don't want to inconvenience the host, because they're not told in advance, especially these days, and they don't want the host to put the host in an embarrassing situation. They may have just cooked a few things, or they may decide to eat some leftovers. You don't know the situation. So they will say, what will they say? I have already eaten. I just came to say hello. The host, of course, has already done that themselves. So they know very well this is not true. They have not already eaten. So the host will quickly go put on more rice or whatever needs to be done, quickly take a mental stock of what's inside the fridge or what can be cooked up quickly, usually potatoes or something which you can just, as they say in this country, whip up and, and then they'll keep them talking. And then they'll say, you are not leaving without having your lunch. No, but I already had my lunch. Never mind, have another. So this is why the host and the guest both play. This is not just in India, in a lot of Asian countries. You play a lovely dance based on each one not trying not to inconvenience the other. So therefore, till the guest collapses, you have to feed the guest till they say, please, no more, no more, no more, no more. So therefore, the guest who stays without eating is a very big deal, because he came in the boundary, right? Yeah, if Yama's plot of land, he was standing outside, no problem. But he came inside the compound. So therefore he is a guest. And so she says, all these things that you and I have been working very hard in our lives. Even though we are Yama and Yami, we still want punya. We have been collecting punya. We have been collecting, prayers for the welfare of our children. We want our lives to be full of pleasantries. And we want our words to have the pleasant. Sunrita also means one more thing. Sunrita means the effect of the words. Not just sweet talking, but sweet talking, sweet sankalpa, satya sankalpa. When you have a pure desire, what happens when you have a pure desire? When you have a pure desire, that desire, becomes manifest. Because pure means not encumbered by your own issues. A desire for someone else's behalf is a pure desire. And it comes true. You think of somebody, somebody appears, or they write to you, or you wish them well just because you can. And so those kinds of desires has to do with speech. They're expressed in the form of speech. May you be well. May you grow. May you blossom. May you gain moksha. All these blessings come in the form of speech. And the effects thereof, the ability for the blessings to manifest this is what is called Sunratam. Yeah. So all this will go for that idiot who doesn't know the connections between the propitiation of a guest and, or rather, the consequences of non-propitiation. More we'll see the Bhashya after we come back. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.